Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
Hey guys, happy Sunday.
Hey, Tom.
Welcome to Casey Yarbrough, aka Casa Tony and Allie. Thank you for having us. We're having some PBRs and some Jameson on this wonderful day, hanging out with an old friend. One of my oldest friends.
Not that old, Tom.
In the city of Atlanta, Casey Yarbrough, aka Tony. We've shared the stage and shared great times off stage. I was thinking about this driving here today.
Yeah.
Spent many times opening up for this guy in the early 90s. I'd say between 94, 95, and 96. And I love when things in life come full circle. Thank you for having us tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for coming.
That's most important.
Thank you for being a host,
Absolutely.
you and your darling wife, but also
Absolutely.
thank you for being a guest, because this is the fun part of the show.
Hell yeah.
You get to pick a record,
Right.
and it's a record that's special to me as well, because I
Right.
know we've seen this band together a million times.
Oh, yeah.
But then someone like Cassie's like, holy cow, I didn't realize how good it is, and she gets into it. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Cheshire, James Joyce, Cassie, Tony, aka Casey Yarbrough, and show the world the record.
Sick of it all's Scratch the Surface.
Woo!
Go.
Man,
Just a fire record that speaks to me yearly, every year. I think I've heard of Sick of It All in like 94.
yeah.
And
That's right when it came out.
yeah, exactly. And I saw them back then, and I remember feeling like I'm a little bit too old to get in pits anymore. So I was, but screw it, I'm just sick of it all. So I get in the pit, Maladjust playing. Some dude jacks me in the jaw, knocked my ass on the ground.
You're like, do I get back in the pit?
Somebody picked me up and I kept going. It was fun. I had
Yeah.
a bruise the next day, but
Oh
I
my
was like,
Like
oh.
20, 19, what would be in your age at that time?
I would have been, I graduated in 91, so
Okay.
in my
22?
20s, yeah, 22,
Old
23,
man,
yeah.
Old
Yeah.
man in the pit.
Old man.
But
22.
they already were a huge
Oh, yeah.
underground
Oh, yeah.
hardcore band who I think
Absolutely.
Yeah.
physically they've aged well if you've seen them recently,
Oh,
but
God,
also as a piece of art they've aged better than some of those
Yeah.
New York records that I loved back then. They don't sound that good now,
Yeah.
and they sound still so good and so
Absolutely.
fresh. And this was a big record
It
because
was.
they were already like an underground band, but this
Yeah.
was like a major label
This was,
debut
this
for
was
them.
their first,
Yeah.
right,
This
on a
is-
major
yeah.
label.
And it did
And
not slow them down
it
at all.
still speaks properly today. Every topic on this record still speaks to today. With
It's a
yeah.
perfectly executed record.
It really
I mean,
is.
I don't have a relationship with it, but they've always been there.
Yep.
Like Sick of
Yeah.
It All has always been around.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was actually surprised at how many albums they have, but this
Oh,
album
yeah.
for sure being their major label debut. I remember all the bands were doing a major label debut around
Yes,
this
around
time.
that time,
And
right.
they had a lot of money and they can go in the studio and make a perfect record. And
Yep.
they definitely
Well, they
can
also
do that.
the label, what, East West. They let them. It was East West, right?
Yeah.
They let them They self-produced it.
Yeah.
So it was like
We-
they produced it.
around that time.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah, around
absolutely.
that time, because of Nirvana and Rancid and Green Day and The Offspring, pretty much anyone who had an underground following were handed out, I guess, major label records.
yeah.
And you'll hear about from friends of ours, and I'm sure we'll have discussions on them on other episodes, whether people liked Jawbox's major label debut, whatever.
Sure.
But no one has questioned this major
yeah.
label debut.
Right.
They're like,
And
no, it's just as good as anything.
It's one of those start to finish records where every song is equally as good. I will never skip a song.
Did you know that they used to play Sunday matinees, like a year after they formed, I believe? It was like they used to play Sunday matinees at CBGB's.
Yeah.
That was the
Reminiscent
big
of
thing
this,
back
the
then.
matinee, the hardcore matinees.
Yeah, they did.
And there was an Atlanta equivalent. That's
Yeah,
Exactly.
yep,
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
point.
The ones
Yeah,
at the
they-
point.
Back to
Yeah.
Faith and the Scats.
Yeah.
Yep.
And-
Cheers to that. You know what?
At some point, we probably shared the
Oh,
same
cheers
with
to
James
that.
Joyce back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know.
Already
Well,
into the
thank
Hardcore
you,
matinees.
Jameson. Here's to hardcore.
Sunday matinee.
New York.
Yes.
It's a
and
Sunday matinee today. Here we go.
And Jameson. Goodness, Casey. I knew it was going to be a good day.
Oh, yeah.
No, I remember. Well,
What is your relationship to Sick of It All?
Okay, well, I'm
from
a-
New York. You're the local.
Yeah. So it's a band that I heard of
Right.
forever, and I remember only hearing good things, but laughing at like the name,
Yeah.
that'd be like a name of a band, be like a Pissed for Life, whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
Knocked Loose.
And they also hung out at this bar, that I used to go to. So I met them before I even saw them play. And they were seriously furthest from sick of it all. They were the nicest guys. Like, I mean, I remember meeting them years later when they played with Slayer, and they were like, "Oh, you used to hang out at Paradise, in Queens, and they were just as nice, super nice guys, positive. Didn't seem like they were sick of anything.
Right.
But on stage, they meant business, and the songs were just brutal. And like dudes on stage doing karate kicks, and like the vocals are just, there's nothing fake about them.
No, it's all passion.
So, I wish I would have gotten into them earlier and seen those matinees.
Yeah.
But I also had moved to Atlanta by that point, and but I had met them when they were just starting, And
when did you move to Atlanta?
I moved to Atlanta like in '92, and then moved back to New York, and then moved back in '93.
Okay.
Probably met Casey around that time, and we became great friends. And we saw them play their first early show at Somber Reptile. I remember seeing them right around this record, and they actually had a bus outside the Somber Reptile, and they were like, "Yeah, our management has us opening up for this band called Korn." So we actually saw Korn at the Somber Reptile. They opened up for them, and they was like, "I don't get it." We're like, "We don't get it either. You should be headlining, But they were the nicest dudes, and I just think when it comes to music, especially abrasive, aggressive music like this, it's either all or nothing. Like you can't do it half-assed. Go home. And so anytime I've seen them or heard anything they've done, they put in 150%.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what I love. That's my understanding of the band.
Absolutely.
Like I remember when I saw them open up for Slayer. Slayer fans were dissing them, and they're like, F you, what's wrong with you? We're good friends with Slayer. Slayer personally invited us out here, and they killed it every night. And some Slayer fans weren't into it, but then other kids, they gained new fans because of their perseverance and just,
and just
being
the
awesome.
intensity. I mean, they have the intensity of Slayer.
Yeah.
But with the New York hardcore vibe.
Without a doubt. Yeah, and also with a sense of humor, like the video where they do the different mosh pit things. It's like, this is the picking up pennies, and this is the lawnmower and stuff. All the moves in the mosh
like
pit.
pulling weeds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, and that was like, those songs. I mean, the guy Lou's voice is awesome, and it's like no fucking around on it. But it's like, it's crazy that there's still like pop melody in it.
So what venues did they play when you were like when this album was coming out?
So when I got my hoodie, the guy jocked, it was a Masquerade.
I heard you got a hoodie.
Oh yeah, this would be a Masquerade. I've been totally sure. I bet it was insane.
And from my buddy Ryan, I've got a little Sick of It All dog tag that Craig gave him a long time ago.
Craig, the bass player, Craig ahead. That's awesome, man.
Yep. So Ryan gave me that.
Man,
pretty awesome.
Yeah, did you have to go looking for that?
No. What's funny? No, I was just in my altar of stuff in my living room.
Up there on with candles.
Yeah, pretty much.
Shrine.
Yeah, my dad's wedding ring, an owl feather, all kinds of stuff that matters to me. Yeah.
Well, no, and every other record after this, I bought and I loved. But this one, I was with you. There's a special feeling. It might have been like the first real love of it. Like, you know how you love the first band that you love, like first album, whatever.
And every song is like, no matter what you're going through in life, like the one song, Consume, is always the one. If I'm ever like feeling self-destructive, going through a hard patch, I can always listen to Consume, and it always brings me out of it. It's just like the whole thing about the part of you that wants to see you lose it all. Come on, every time I listen to that, it just gets me out of that funk.
Yeah.
So I can be mad or angry, listen to Maladjusted while I'm exercising or running.
Oh my goodness.
But Consume is always the one that gets me out of any funk I've ever been in.
It's an album that'll pump you up.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cassie, what's your New York hardcore perspective?
My New York hardcore perspective. I don't have any really New York hardcore perspective. I've obviously heard Sick of It All, and but I have never listened to this entire album until I got it.
Yeah.
And you at first, before it came, I was listening to it in the car driving down to Florida, and honestly, I think this is something better played on on like a stereo setup where you can really hear the nuances.
Right.
If you listen to it like just in a car or just kind of quiet, a lot of the songs kind of start sounding the same. But when you listen to it in a good setup, you can really hear the nuances, and it's. I mean, I that's.
And they really are a band that thrives on they're a live band.
Absolutely, the energy of them live.
Yeah.
Like I went to see him 2 years ago with Murphy's Law, and I mean, I'm talking about first riff. Lou is 11 feet in the air doing karate kicks.
He's like hardcore David Lee Roth.
He's unbelievable.
He really is. He's just that acrobatic.
Yeah. One thing I loved best about this album, because I listened to it a lot. Luckily, I got the LP was able to listen to it a lot at home. I really, really love. It has some amazing bass lines in there, like underneath it all. And so the guy Craig Sateri, who was from Agnostic Front and a lot of other like well-known bands. This is the first.
Who's buddies with Kelly from Death Pickles?
Really?
Yes.
This is the
Represent.
first. This is the first album that he played on with them.
But they
like,
were all
played
friends
with
since
Sid.
they were kids. Yeah.
But I mean, I love the bass in this. I
That
love the
rattly
bass in this
bass.
album. I mean, it ties a lot of it together, and so yeah, that's probably my favorite part. I think is the bass. I mean, all of it together.
I'm with you too. I'm like listening to it, like, or even the fact that like if you're listening to this thing, you can't listen to it soft.
You really can't.
It
It's
needs
gotta
to
be
be at
loud.
a party on a good stereo blasting outside. You know,
Well, it needs to be blasting at like whatever 100 and
Yes.
plus decibels.
Yeah, it needs to sound like
at
a
your
jet.
face in a club in a live
Absolutely.
environment. I'm sure.
And I've always thought that the album starts out with that like the hi hats, whatever.
Yeah.
Sounds like a German tank cranking up,
Oh,
getting
wow.
ready to just level like the field or whatever.
There's so
It's-
many
it's
little
incredible,
nuances
yeah.
like that are just like like the drum, and then there's
it crushes you.
Yeah, it really does.
Kind of like I don't know if it's actually considered galloping, but where it's like which it might be the first. Is it the first track where it's almost like a galloping?
Galloping is a
drum
good way
beat.
to describe
Just
it.
chugging along.
But it really it does pump you up. Like this whole album really does.
When it starts out like maladjusted, that bass,
love
that
it, yeah.
Oh yeah.
just so heavy and rattly, and he's striking those strings with just like a
Well, the video I was talking about is Step Down.
Oh, yeah,
Which
yeah.
the song is almost, people would hate saying that it's poppy, but you can't stop.
No, but is that the one? Is that the one that was in?
It's an
Yeah,
anthem.
yeah.
Is
It
that the
is.
one that was in?
very anthemic. Yeah.
Very anthemic, yeah.
Is that the one that was in Beavis and Butthead? There was one.
It might have
There
been.
were two that they did videos for.
But, so Step Down is the one where they do the
Scratch the
different
surface.
versions of dancing, and there's a guy like Howard Cosell, he's like,
Okay.
and no, someone's doing the lawnmower, someone's
yeah,
doing the
so
truck,
it's gotta
someone's doing the
be-
truck driver while he's in the pit. you know?
I think then probably that is the one that was on like an episode of Beavis and Butthead, which I
believe it.
We
Hey,
had
listen.
we had a toothbrush dance that was like
Yeah, I
Into the pit and
think
something like this.
I think in this time, if you had a metal or a punk band or hardcore band, and Beavis and Butthead like acknowledged it, you were doing something right. Like so that's really really.
That's
good.
a pretty good like bucket list thing.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I was
Yeah, I
on.
got-
My video was on
Yeah.
Beavis and Butthead.
at the time, for sure.
But like this week,
Oh, thank you.
I've been lucky the past few months that I've been listening to a lot of our records that we've discussed in the mountains of Tennessee. And I have been that lucky lately. I've been in town in Atlanta dealing with like some family business, which sometimes isn't that fun. That
Cheers
being
to that
said,
family business,
well,
by the way.
cheers to
Oh,
you.
cheers to
Thank you.
family business.
Cheers to you. So
Cheers.
let me just tell you, I probably pissed off a lot of family members and clients and doctors blasting this in a hospital parking lot.
Yeah.
All week,
Oh, yeah.
waiting on
Listening
phone
to
calls
it
from
all.
family. But at the same time, I was frustrated with things that were going on
And
in my
it-
life.
and it gets it out. It's a good
I want to
thing.
thank Lou and Pete and company. They're
Absolutely.
brothers. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
So, and they are so awesome to watch. I mean, like Pete's had the Joe Strummer Straight to Hell, like the combat training
Oh, yeah.
Mohawk for 40 years now. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that guy, like literally.
He
I
looks
think
like he's 35 years old.
amazing.
He's like 57 or
amazing, man.
something.
And I love this band, and I love everyone at this table, and I love this show. And first of all, if I was a bet man, I would have bet 20 grand that you'd have picked a Ramones record.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay, because we'll discuss the Ramones
Right.
another time. But then when you
The
mention
Ramones have not been discussed
yes
properly. on
and
this
also
show.
when we do a show on the
But
Ramones, it might be
Yeah.
4 episodes.
Yeah.
It might,
But the thing
Oh,
is,
yeah.
it should be like first.
when
four
when,
albums.
when I wanted
I'm really
Casey,
glad that he picked this,
when I
though.
wanted Casey
Yeah.
on, I literally was like halfway to Sanity, or maybe he'll pick Ramones Mania. I didn't know the self-titled, But then when you said no, man, Scratch Service, I was like, how did I not think that he
Yeah,
would pick
it
that?
does- it
Because I
does,
know
yeah.
that how many times have I been here visiting back from New York, and we've had a party around Christmas.
Yep.
Everyone leaves, and it's just me and you in the kitchen
Playing Sick of It
drinking
All.
whiskey, and it's 3 in the morning, and we're
Yep.
talking about when we met each other 20 years
Yep.
ago, and we're listening to Sick
Oh,
of It All.
30.
And then
30
you-
years
Yeah,
ago.
30
And
years
you
ago.
stage dive off
Yeah.
of the like
Yep.
off of the
Yeah.
counter. And
I jump
you
up
guys
the
start-
fridge and I'm
Yeah.
breaking bottles,
right.
Yeah, I
Yep.
can't wait
You
to
land
do,
on Emma.
I
Yep.
can't wait to do karaoke Sick of It All at the end of the
Dude,
session.
that we gotta
could
make this
totally
happen.
do it,
Dude, I think
after this karaoke.
one of my funnest moments was when we went and saw Sick of It All at Masquerade. Allison had never been to a real hardcore show.
Yeah.
So I took her to see Sick of It All. We're right up front.
Yeah.
And just
Get ready.
she's like, oh my God. She's like, this isn't my thing, but this is awesome. The energy here, everything about this. She's like, I feel uplifted, whatever.
Yeah. Cathartic.
Yeah. And so
Super
we're like right
cathartic.
up front.
Get it all
and
out.
And Sick of It All posted a picture from the stage, and it was me screaming with my fist in the air as loud as I could with her right front.
Oh, that's
And they posted it, and I was like, oh my God.
That's like the best picture
that
ever.
encompassed like the entire evening, because she was so like, wow, this is amazing.
And
this
that's the beautiful thing about that. Also about New Yorkers and hardcore when it's done right. You're the underdog.
Oh yeah.
And you're actually persuading people to join your side.
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
That's what these guys, because all these guys at this time, you got to understand, James, they were all flirting with hip hop, a bunch of stuff. They were certainly dressed in hip hop, and for them to come across still that like brutal and loving.
And I think that they had a hard time, or maybe didn't. Maybe they didn't become as mainstream as as they could have,
right?
Because a lot of this came out at the time when like maybe poppier band, like say Green Day and stuff.
Well, it was exactly at that time,
What was like
Green Day and Blink-182 and some of those others in the late
it's
90s.
Kind of more of like this came out when pop punk became very commercially, whatever.
Pennywise.
Business-wise.
Pennywise, like that one band that kind of stood back a little bit.
Yeah.
And the Offspring and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I think these guys were like, we're getting money, which who knows? Maybe who knows what a lot of money was to produce a record back then? Maybe 40 grand, whatever. But the thing is, they're like, they're letting us
6 figures.
Okay. Yeah. So, but they're letting us do this, letting us produce this. We're not gonna let the fans down, which is amazing, and do it. Like everything right.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like looking at their history. They were dropped from a couple. I should have known we're going to have entirely too many shots. During
Tony.
this episode.
Tony is a good person.
Do you know me?
And a
I'm
horrible
going to go
person.
lay down for a little bit between episodes.
Yes, nap.
I'll be right there with you.
But they were dropped from a couple. They were dropped from East West. They signed with Fat Records, and I think they were dropped from that. And it's like, so I think from knowing that they obviously stuck to their authentic
and their formula.
Because
let me tell you, they put out a record last year and it's awesome.
Oh God, yeah.
Yes, I mean,
kind of
and it's still the same lineup, isn't it? It's still the same lineup.
Yep.
Just like, here's what we do. I mean, kind of like AC/DC, kind of like
the
Judas Priest.
This is what we do. We're gonna do it well.
Like, this is what we're gonna give you. If you like it, then that's awesome. But we're not gonna like change to try to.
Right. And so it's like when I see that labels like drop bands, I don't know.
You think it means they're not doing something right?
No, I think it means they are doing something
right.
Okay. Personally, I think it means that they are very.
I appreciate you saying that, and people can have different views on that because they're never going to sell like this much, but they're always consistently have their fans.
They're authentic.
They're
actually
bills.
putting their.
I mean, I thought Avail was that way when they first came out. I loved Avail, and a lot of people were like, I'm tired of them. Like, I don't know, Satiate and Dixie. Those records were amazing. 4 a.m. Friday, I love that. You know, and some people grow out of it. Some people are like, well, I want to hear something different. This is what they're good at. They stick to it.
Yep.
You know.
Now, Sick of All were a Queens band.
Queens band.
Right?
Well,
as opposed to like the downtown.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I know it's like you're talking about different eras in a way of New York hardcore, and I'm definitely not the expert on New York hardcore.
Yeah. But they hung out at places in Queens, and that's where I know them. But they were certainly the Sunday matinees, and they were hanging out on the Lower East Side, the East Village, where basically hardcore 7 to 7A started. They were hanging out on that scene. Yeah. But they were the younger brothers of Agnostic Front, like Cro-Mags.
Yeah.
You know, so if I'm 51, they're probably 55, 56, and Roger Moret is probably 62 or something, which is crazy.
It's funny because it's all even that like 5-year difference is different generations.
Big time,
hardcore.
Big time, yeah.
5 years can be a long time.
They were freshmen. While Agnostic Front were the seniors, they were in college,
Yeah, so like
hardcore New York college.
There's a mosquito eating your forehead.
I'm gonna get eaten live, but it's okay.
Yeah, for New York hardcore.
Smile. That's another album.
James will do anything. No, but yeah, I think when those when they were coming up and those other bands were the big brothers doing stuff, they all were brought in to do like gang vocals on those records. Like it was that's the awesome thing about that community.
Very supportive
community
in the New York hardcore.
I love it. In the one song is like in the underground, integrity lies within.
Well, when they were doing this album, I believe it was when they maybe before they were doing this album, maybe after, but like right around this time, they sublet like a loft in Chinatown, in New York's Chinatown, with Henry Rollins to like rehearse and stuff.
Yeah.
During Henry's New York period, yes, he lived in New York. Rollins band time around that time,
Man, I'm gonna do a shot with Casey.
Oh my God.
Let's do that.
Casey
Plus
choosing
Rollins
awesome
band.
on a Sunday.
She was awesome.
Yeah.
Cassie, thank you. Oops. Oh goodness. I just
Well,
love.
this is the first episode, so get ready for the next
This
episode.
is what we do.
We're being wasted on the second episode.
When we shoot 2 episodes
hard.
at a time, I'll have friends go, the first episode, I understood every word you.
And afterwards, it's just like slur.
I just love a record that Tom Waits has. He's got so many good quotes, but he has this thing. He's like, I love beautiful melodies telling me horrible things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I love a record that speaks the truth about streets and politics and youth's anger.
Yep.
But also like in a melody that's anthemic. That I'm
some
driving
of the,
or I'm sitting in a hospital parking lot.
Some of the breakdowns
it,
and then it's these like poppy, happy
best
parts.
breakdowns.
I mean, I could say like hardcore overall. It's not my.
It's not your wheelhouse.
It's not my It's not my go-to really musically, like to pick things. But listening to this, like after I got the record and wasn't just listening to it in my car stereo, but once I got it and like was putting it on, by like
the bass and the
by
breakdown.
like the second and third time. Well, no, I was actually like going around like my living room like by myself, and the dog, like just stoked.
Jumping off
like,
the couch.
bass.
like jumping off the couch.
I can't wait because the world is coming back together.
Moshing by myself.
These guys will be on tour. I can't wait to take Cassie to see Sick of
Oh my God, dude, we're gonna have that to be a party.
We're gonna do a little field trip.
We'll all go.
Exactly. Yeah, man.
We'll all go.
Well, should we?
I was thinking about. I love when we get letters that somehow are like parallel.
They seem to tie into the episode like really perfectly.
Yes.
I wonder how that happens.
This is the
Let's
Johnny
see what
Carson
this
section.
one does.
Goodness gracious. Well, I'm gonna let James read this one, but it's very funny because this is from Richard Hellraiser. Don't know who that is. Says he's from New York, but I don't know. But I love when these things kind of go hand in hand with the episode.
Thank you. So Richard Hellraiser writes from New
James
York.
is the best.
And he says, I love the show. I love it in all its forms. I love that you talk about New York all the time. You know, it just
we love
comes
New
up.
York, yeah.
Whether we talk about the Heartbreakers, whether we're talking about, a New York hardcore band. But for each of us, what does New York music, what do you think of when it's New York? When you think of New York, what music
Spouses.
do you think of?
I don't think about spouses. I'll tell you that.
But
much.
it's interesting that the Heartbreakers are playing right now.
This is actually a loaded James and Richard Hellraiser. This is like a loaded. It's not the easy question.
Yes.
So right now I'd say, certainly Queens of New York Citadel. I would also throw Age of Quarrel, Cro-Mags, and Bad Brains in there.
Oh, yeah.
But if I have to think of New York, for me, it's Ramones. It's
Ramones.
always going to be Ramones.
100%
Because they were my
Ramones.
Beatles,
Yeah, true.
and they were my Beatles, and they grew up in the neighborhood I grew up in,
Yep.
So for me, I'd say certainly Ramones.
Should we cross? What is your?
I mean, well,
your
for
New
me,
York?
like really, when I think of New York bands, I would say like the Ramones. I would say Velvet Underground.
Yeah.
I would
that's
say,
a good one, yeah.
Blondie. I mean,
Yeah.
like
Very
really.
New York,
Yeah, I mean, those are the things that come to my mind when I think of bands that really made an
I think of
impact.
Basquiat and
in New
Andy
York,
Warhol as well. So
Well, sure,
there's
for sure.
so you're absolutely right. I think of art and stuff, but for me, it's gonna be Ramones.
Yeah, Ramones, 100%.
What do you say? Would you say anything else?
Nah, Ramones.
Yeah.
Ramones.
First time I saw Ramones
Times
was with
10.
Blondie in '87.
Oh wow.
So to New York,
Yeah.
Wait, can I
Was
add
that here?
Can I add
Yeah.
that? Can I add
That's a
that?
solid show.
and
Still have
actually
the tour shirt.
break the third wall,
Sure,
like the
do it,
whatever,
yeah.
fourth wall, and say, Tom and Casey and a couple other friends are in a Ramones cover band
Yes.
called the Raymonds.
The Raymonds.
Yes, and I mean, man,
They're
do
such a
I,
fun
do
show.
I have
Such a
time to
fun
explain
show.
this? Because when I first
Wait.
moved here, my brother
Yeah.
Scott and I used to go to Casey's house, and he had a barn behind his house,
The Body
where
Shop.
we would cover Bad Religion and Ramones songs.
Sure.
And your dad, from what I remember him,
Yeah.
was a
I'm
very
not- no, no, no.
was a very
All
handsome,
right, I'll take a little
huge, like Fred Gwynn from
Yeah.
the Munsters type, beautiful big man.
you
From
go.
what I
These are your
remember,
class.
and he would come in. This is to your dad, brother, and your dad would come in with his beautiful, crazy Southern accent.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd be like, "You guys don't make a noise in there," like that. And he'd be like, "Are you guys still playing the Raymonds?"
Yep.
And so Casey and I
Yes.
Casey and I had lost contact
Yeah.
for no reason except life. We're busy,
Yeah,
you know.
sure.
I was married,
Life
divorced.
happens.
I was living in New York, and I bump into him, and I was staying at the Highland Inn, and I go to Manuel's Tavern to pick up food to go back to my
Another
hotel
good
room,
Right.
and he's there with his wife and their family for like her mom's birthday, and I'm like, "Man, I haven't seen you forever. How you doing?" And I was like, "Dude, I heard about your dad passing. I'm so sorry when your dad passed away." And he was like, "Oh man, don't worry." He's like, "Put your food, tell them to hold your food, have some drinks with my family."
Yeah.
So we're doing shots. Next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. and I'm on his kitchen, jumping off the sink to lick cigarette. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, but anyway, but I'm like, no, I really am. Your dad, from what I met him, he was such a fine Southern gentleman. And like, I just remember him being this monster
Oh, yeah.
of a
He's a
man,
large
and beautiful.
man.
So nice and
Southern
funny.
accent.
He's like,
Oh, yeah.
man, stop playing that noise.
Sound like Johnny Cash.
The Raymonds, man,
Nice.
like that, whatever. So I was like, remember when we used to call, your dad used to call the Ramones the Raymonds?
Raymonds.
And he's like, yeah. And I was like, man, we should do a show one night covering the Ramones and dedicate it to your dad.
Yep.
And next thing you know, like shot number 27, he goes, we should call our band Everybody Loves Raymonds. Like this. And then so next thing you know,
Yep, the
Halloween
Raymonds.
2 years ago,
Yep.
we brought Dwayne on drums,
Yep.
Marlo Sanchez, put a wig on him, made him
Yep.
DD,
Dude.
and we did a set of Ramones covers under the name of the
Yep.
Raymonds of 529. So here
It
is
was
to
a
your
fun
dad.
show.
Thank you.
That's perfect.
Much
Fun
love,
show.
and I'm glad I could help you fulfill that
Dude,
dream.
thank you.
To your dad,
I feel like
to
he,
your whole
uh,
family.
yeah.
Cheers.
Casey, you don't have to do a second one of these, so you can go.
Yeah, but
We actually have to.
who
be
is you?
coherent.
Who do you think of when you think of New York?
like,
Hear it.
no more shots.
Who do you
I
think
think
of when
he's
you think of
saying
New
no
York?
more-
though?
We're good.
And we're going to end on this with some Miles.
Sparkles.
Man, Miles.
Sparkles.
Miles
say-
Davis. I do not think of New York when I think of Miles Davis, but I do
Really?
think
Did
of
you
late
say Miles
nights and
Davis?
drugs.
Wait, you're like.
Well,
really
no, I
are-
was just because Miles Davis is.
Think of
playing.
some,
Sounds so
some
good.
Italian
no,
cafe.
No,
But-
like very, no, it's
I-
very true. Like,
You're absolutely right. Actually,
Sparkles.
that's a good. I was gonna say like the sort of confrontational like suicide.
Oh, I love
Oh, yeah.
Sparkles.
The no wave scene and all the
DNA.
like, crazy
I love that
Sparkles.
stuff,
I
yes.
was thinking of that, but
Spark
with,
Hills.
with Miles Davis playing, it's like also
Oh, my
think about all
goodness.
the
I don't know if
jazz
she ended
that
up in
came out
the-
of New York.
You're
Think about
absolutely right. If you ever buy Tompkins Square
Coltrane,
Park,
think about
which is basically the birth of New York hardcore, which is
Right.
across the street from 7A, on the back end of Tompkins Square Park, across the street, there's a house. If you're ever in that area, I'll show you. And there's a gold plaque behind a plant, and it says Charlie Parker used to live here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
I've
awesome.
taken a lot of dates there. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, it's amazing.
We'll talk about it later.
I want to thank Casey Yarbrough.
Thank you.
I
I
want
wanna
to
thank
Allie
Thank you.
and
I
the
wanna
kids
thank
and
Allie,
and the pets and your hospitality
Emma,
and
Lucy,
Matthew
and Sparkles,
Greg and
and
Sparkles
Gina,
and also I want to
Greg
thank
and Matt.
the Keller brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes.
Sick of It All,
yes.
putting out scratch the
Absolutely, man.
surface.
Kidding me? That's
I can't
this
wait
has
to-
gotten me through breakups, divorces, financial ruin, everything.
It's a
Came out
it's
the
a
other
really
side.
good album,
Yep.
and I'm so glad you picked it because
Yep.
I had heard Sick of It All. I liked it, but I had never listened to a full Sick of It All album, and
Yep.
I'm like, and
This
it
is-
really
That's the
just
one.
really
This is
pumped me
this is
up.
like their London Calling. If,
Oh, yeah.
if they were going to have
You
one,
nailed it.
you know.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, you know what's cool? Casey Yarbrough.
Yes.
And one of those shows bought a hoodie.
All right,
I did.
it's time to show off the merch. Here we go.
Yes. And we want to thank everyone for watching. And seriously, Queens, New York hardcore. Love it.
Mercy,
Sick of it all. Look at
mercy.
that.
Right.
Nice.
It still
Man,
fits.
I know it does, buddy. Man, thank you
All right,
so
here we
much. Here it is. Test of time. Test of time.
You can go running around
That's-
the neighborhood with that thing.
Totally fits.
That's
To
awesome.
all our fans in New
All
York,
right.
to all our fans in New York and Canada and Los Angeles watching, man.
And other places.
Other places.
People like
yeah.
Sick of It All in other
yes.
places.
They're big in Chile. To my family in
big in
South
Chile.
America. No, thank you, Casey. Man, we should have every episode with Miles Davis. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm vibing this hard.
1, 2, 3. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Good night.